amalgamated, we have the ability for 5 cents. The other thing that that has come into play that during the local governance reform may not necessarily have been there, it's the assessments are going up by 10% or more every year. Once we did the local governance reform, that was not necessarily the case, right? Where year over year. So I think, I mean, it's a policy decision. So,
Okay, I'll wait for Councillor Butler to give me an explanation. Appreciate it. Merci, Jacques.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Worship, and appreciate the questions from Councillor Bourgeois. So if we remember when municipal reform was happening, we had gone through a budget, and what they had said that the first year that this new group, that's most of them, the residents are in Ward 3. They live at the end of Charles Lutz Road, Crystal Springs area. And they were advised by the provincial government when all this municipal reform was going on that they would not have to pay any increase that year. And the following year, the max they could pay, anything from 0 to 5 cents. Didn't mean that we had to pay, they had to pay 5 cents. They could pay 1 cent, 2 cents. The max was 5. So that first year, we didn't get that notice till after our budgeting, and they were charged the 5 cents. So I believe that, yes, we're going to have them get caught up, but I think that just the way that the municipal reform acted and didn't give them much a chance to come and even sit and talk to council. They were kind of like in la. I remember the first year they were in first 2 winter storms. Nobody showed up. We didn't show up, and the provincial government didn't show up. So they've gone through a lot out there trying to figure this out. And when I seen that we went to the very max again, I thought that, you know, I agree that they have to all get caught up. I wouldn't go for 0, but a 2.5 would make them know that we're welcoming them into the city, and we're trying our best to try to work with the provincial government about the roads. You know, I just got a call the other day after all the rain that the ditches out there were flooding into their yard, and they called the provincial government, and the provincial government says call the city, and so it's still quite a mix up. And so I think for instead of 5, 2.5. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, but I could use the same argument for the people in Salisbury Road.
Sorry, you do not have the floor at this time. Councillor Edgett, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I'll be voting against this based on the principles that or policies that we had started with originally when we were amalgamated with the LSD. And our, as I understood our plan at that time, was to follow the provincial government's lead in saying that the maximum that we could charge would be 5 cents per year, which would gradually bring this particular part of our city towards our standard tax rate. And until there's more tax reform and allows other wards to look at varying tax rates within a ward or within the city, I don't feel that we should do anything but attempt to bring this LSD up to the tax rate that the other people in this municipality are currently paying. I feel that's the only fair thing to do at this time. And once we start making little policies here and there and changing things, I find it becomes very unfair in the overall. So in this case, I will not be voting for this motion for the fact that I do believe it should be 5 cents. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Councillor Bourgeois, did you want another go at it?
Thank you, but just maybe one comment. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Edgett, but if there is a more coherent rather than last minute type of appeal based on ward boundaries or whatever, I was concerned more with everybody in the city that doesn't have the same services, and yet we're forcing them to pay taxes. But now we're doing an exception. I understand the logic, I understand the rationale, but if there is going to be, before next budget, some sort of long-term plan that we're not going to take at this rate 30 years, maybe 25 years, if ever there's another exceptional request at the last minute during budget time that we don't go for 5%. The principle is to catch up. So if we only catch up by 2.5%, maybe 2% next year, we'll never catch up. It would take 25, 30 years. So if you can produce a plan that says, I don't know, within 12 years, 10 years, I don't know what would be reasonable, but everybody knows beginning next budget year, in 2026, it'll be this much, in 27, this much, 28, 29, 30, until we are caught up. I'll vote this time exceptionally, grudgingly, with apologies to the people in Salisbury Road.
Councillor Legier.
No, I was asking.
Oh,
I
I'm
guess if it
sorry.
wasn't
Excuse
clear,
me. Sorry. I didn't realize that was a question.
Yep.
I didn't ask it properly. Sorry.
No, sorry. Thank your worship to the Conseil Bourgeois. The one thing right now, if we look at the difference, so if you include the provincial taxes that they would pay, they're close to $1. The city tax rate as in the budget right now would be 1.36, so we are 35 cents. So at if we would include a 5-cent increase for the LSD, and assuming that nothing is going to change and year over year, we're going to have to mitigate that 10% assessment for everyone else, we're probably looking at, I don't know, 4 to 6, 7 years before the two rates would equal if we continue with the same trends as the past 2 years.
Right, so 15 years if we just increase 2.5.
You're right.
Right, okay, all right. If there is a commitment that you will bring back a strategy and council can adopt it and then we stick to it and we don't modify it on a yearly basis, I'll be okay with it. Thank
Yes,
you.
we-
Merci, Madame la Maire.
And we could do that as part of when we present the budget, the budget long-term overview, and we seek direction from council. Absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Legier.
Yeah, thank you. I seem to recall years ago, we always talked about, how difficult it is to create policy on the fly or just short notice, right? And I think that we need to reflect on it. There's no question that we need to have more data representative of exactly how much it costs to deliver services. And I would have to agree that, someone that happens to be at the end of, if we choose Salisbury Road, at the end of Salisbury Road, that's been in our municipality for years, is paying the same tax as someone that lives in downtown Moncton and, across from City Hall, let's say, or somewhere. And I think the tax system is such that we don't fairly recognize the costs of services. And so as much as someone may not get services in, let's say, to their satisfaction or perhaps to the same degree as people who are in the center of the city that have sewer and water and fire hydrants and so on, services are delivered in those other other areas, and the cost of services are likely higher because of the fact that fire trucks, for example, need to be dispatched to be able to fight a fire. They require water to be transported and so on. Personally, I think that we need to have the data. I'm uncomfortable all of a sudden deciding that because the government of New Brunswick did municipal reform, and now that we've expanded those boundaries, it's not something that we as a council chose to decide. It was decided for us. And we have a mechanism, I agree, up to 5 cents, but we're trying to level the playing field. So I would feel uncomfortable doing it this year. I think we need to have more understanding, and then we need to say, well, what about all of the other citizens that are paying full tax rate and not receiving any services either, through no fault of their own, other than the fact that they went through this years ago as well. So anyway, I guess at this point, that's, I feel uncomfortable doing it at the last minute, and I hope that we would get more data, and that we would have that discussion in terms of the true cost for services. And I think other municipalities and other jurisdictions, not in New Brunswick, but have recognized that, and maybe through provincial government, where the cost, it's the fact, the cost to deliver services in the core is less expensive than moving outwards. And maybe if you had a differential tax rate, then we could truly compensate, truly recognize the cost of services. And that's a future discussion. But it's just my view that, you know, doing something at the last minute is, as much as it's difficult, I believe that it's about fairness for everyone, but trying to have the data to support the decisions we make. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Well, I will not be able to support this motion. It's a principle of fairness in my mind, and for all of the other reasons, the cost, without having a real sense of the real costs of the services that are being applied, making policy decisions on the fly, in that this has been what we have been dedicated to. So I will not be able to support it. We can move to the vote. The motion passes 6-5. Excellent. Well, that concludes the motions for today. Councillor Bourgeois,
I have motions.
go ahead.
Thank you. And I want to first of all thank staff, Serge and his team, for providing answers to the questions I was unable to ask virtually yesterday and the day before. We had talked about, or I talked about a budget for social inclusion plan. Maybe I missed some of that discussion. Maybe it was brought up. The amount of 100,000 as last year was discussed. Was a motion made to that effect during the budget deliberations?
No.
I would like to move. We have a social inclusion plan, although we've never adopted it. We have a lot of plans that we don't adopt, but sort of we receive them, and I guess everybody assumes that once we have that plan, we implement it. So we have a committee, very dynamic committee, came to us a couple of weeks ago. Councillor Richard and I sit on it, and I guess it's the same as my following motion on democracy, but if we believe, if we are committed to social inclusion and we, in brackets, adopt a social inclusion plan, on doit avoir le courage de nos convictions. We got to put our money where our mouth is. And so last year we had 100,000 in contingency, I think. I'm not quite sure how we put it in, but I think the committee would need another 100,000 to do as much as they can on the social inclusion plan. So I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Richard. All right, so that will be parked and staff will go
But
and
no,
evaluate.
no, that one, I think that motion, so we can provide just a summary right now.
Oh, do you,
on-
oh, okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, just to provide some more information on that motion. So one of the things, just so we know, so last year there was a level 3 of 100,000 put in. There's still $51,000 available as of now. The funding, from my understanding, that we have in the social inclusion now, I would not necessarily be able, maybe Isabel would have more. So we have Vincent, who is the staff member. We would have around 90,000 in program funding, which is used, from what I understand. And there's also in our budget permanently the 200,000 for that social complex needs that I'm not sure where that would that spending would be. So if we increased 100,000 as of now, depending on the DMCI that I mentioned, but I think with DMCI, again, we also have the 2025 contingency. we would have 53,000 left if we consider DMCI. We would not be able to fund it all, but we can treat DMCI separately once it would move forward.
Two comments, if I may, Mayor. One is that, yes, the Social Inclusion Committee was only set up, I think only started working in May. Councillor Rudichal will correct me. So then they drafted the priorities out of the social inclusion plan. What are we going to do the first year, second year? So the 100,000 is already committed, but they haven't been able to spend it because they've only been working 6 months of the year. So that money is not sort of untargeted and can be used for the second year of the plan. So they need that money to do the 6 or 7 things they were supposed to do in 2024, but will not have the time to do it. They'll do it in 2025. I don't know what the amount is. My guess is 90 to 100,000 for next year for the new things that they will be adding, taking from the social inclusion plan. Like, okay, check, we did 1, 5, and 6. Next year we'll do 2, 3, and 9, that kind of stuff. So I don't know what the exact amount is. We were under the assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Rudichal, that this was not a level 3, but it was a level 2, so it would be carried over. I have no problem with the level 3. Because maybe one day the expenses maybe for 26 would be 52,000 instead of 100,000. So I wouldn't want to have 100,000 automatically. It'll all depend on the plan and how much these things cost. So I for this year, and I promise we'll have to convince the committee to submit budget requests by the end of August or whenever it is your deadline is. So thinking ahead in next August, what the year 26 will require, make a budget, submit it. So next year we'll be here with very specific numbers. But right now, I don't think that's the case. Councillor Rudichal, if you have anything to add, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think another 100,000 for 2025 would be good.
Councillor Richard.
Merci, Ms. Arnold. Je m'excuse de ne pas avoir fait cette motion-là hier. Ou avant-hier, c'était...
I'm sorry for not putting in that motion yesterday or the day before yesterday. And although I was supposed to do it, as Councillor Bourgeois was saying, there are certain priorities we worked on, others remain to be done. So the 50,000 remaining could be gone by the end of the year. So 100,000 would be covering 2025 for new priorities, because there are a number of them, and it's a very dynamic group. We met twice a month. We've been meeting twice a month since then, and there's so much work to be done.
Though I get the 51,000 from this year that is accounted for. The 90,000 though that already has program funding and 200,000 for the social complex needs, could that money not be program funding to implement what is in the social inclusion plan?
I think I would pass that over to the department for that comment. I don't have enough. And the other thing too, just to keep in mind, one of the things, so with that motion, will be very important also to specify is the proposition to fund this with the 2024 council contingency or to impact the tax rate as well. So that may be a clarity that we'll need to make before council votes on the motion.
Perhaps we could get, sorry to do this to you, Isabel, since you're like all of a week into the role, but perhaps you can give us some clarity.
So the 210,000.
Oh, sorry. One sec. There
I
you go.
had pressed my button. The 210,000 is already accounted for something very specific. They've got dedicated already out of the money, the 80,000, they've got the breakfast program, and they've got the bus passes.
Okay.
And so those things are all committed. And so you are correct in saying that there are things that they will not be able to accomplish. And that the money that is left over for 2024 is from the list that I have in my head, pretty much accounted for already, so.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Councillor Legier.
Yeah, thank you. I was looking back at the presentation that the Social Inclusion Committee gave at our last public meeting, and they presented a budget close to $100,000 in terms of what they're doing. And I'm okay with that. I think that they have very strong commitment to wanting to move things forward and certainly looking at, you know, an annual workshop, public awareness, neighborhood profiles, signage. I'll wait for a second here. So just getting back, do they have an annual workshop plan, public awareness, neighborhood profiles, signage, capacity building for not-for-profit organizations? They also included the micro grant program and the intergenerational sessions. I think, I guess I have a question first. My question is, was a budget submitted to the city for consideration with respect to that presentation? And it,
Thank you, Your Worship, to the Conseiller Legere. I cannot necessarily confirm at 100% that it was not submitted to somebody at the city, but we did not receive it at the leadership team or as part of the process for that 100,000.
and it wouldn't be included in the grants either?
No.
No. Okay. So maybe in the future, we need to have a process too, because we'll often have people, organizations present and they'll indicate funds that are required. And I guess we maybe need a mechanism to see how we move those forward. But in any event, I think it's a relative excellent approach in terms of budgeting and their budget. So I wouldn't have an issue with that. And I think if we are able to put it through the contingency for 2024, I think that could be a solution. But I think for next year, it needs to be really a budget item where if we're very committed, as we say we are, to social inclusion, then it needs to be a long-term budgeting and you know, making it very clear that we don't fall into these one-time approaches. So I'm okay with that motion and certainly the work that's being done by those volunteers and appreciate the efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this topic who has not had the opportunity? I will go back to you, Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la Maire. I just wanted to answer Councillor Legere. I thought I had mentioned it before, but Councillor Richard and I thought that the amount we approved last year was a level 2 and that it would continue. We learned September, October, maybe that it was a level 3. And by that time, it was like, oh, so I thought that Vincent Marola, our social inclusion coordinator, was going to try to find a solution. In the meantime, obviously it didn't happen. It's not here, but it was, we thought that it would be 100,000 until the end of the social inclusion plan, and that wasn't the case. So we'll assume responsibility for not double checking on that amount. Merci.
Terrific. So it's been moved, it's been seconded. Sorry, Jacques, just for clarity, it can come out of the contingency.
We
for
would have the
2024.
funding, yes.
Okay.
But I think that needs to be part of the motion, though, if that's the case.
Oh, okay. Could, with the mover and seconder, that it come out of the 2024 contingency? If we could add that in? Oh, is it there? That 100,000 be taken from the 2024 council contingency?
And specification on whether it's a permanent request or just a level 3 for this year to be reevaluated as well would be beneficial for the motion as well.
I will go to the mover on that. Is that your intention?
The intention, we thought from the beginning, was $100,000 a year for 5 years, because the plan is 5 years. If council disagrees with that, that's one thing. But if that's what everybody thought, same as us, that it would be 100,000 for the 5 years of the plan. Our apology if it wasn't made clear from the get-go, but that's the intent.
So then based on that information, a 5-year, we would suggest it be a level 2, because level 2s can also be adjusted, so.
Okay, so that the $100,000 be taken from the 2024 council contingency and that this continue or as a level 2, then is what you're saying. Okay,
That's right.
let's put it in
And
as a level.
And on the screen, we have to, okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
This be a level 2 item. be a level 2 item, singular. And would you put the 5 years in? I would not put the 5 years in.
We would
Well,
not, because if we put the 5 years in, then we're going to enter it, and after 5 years, it will,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It will drop off. So I think as a
Just
level 2.
Level 2 item, perfect. All right. Mover and seconder, are you comfortable with that? Okay.
And to be clear to council, based on what is here today, we're only funding year 1 with the council contingency. After that, it becomes part of
Yes.
the regular budget.
Right. Yeah. As a real level 2. Okay. Should we vote on this now, or do you have a number of other motions that we'll need to consider? We're probably good to go vote on this now then, I think, probably.
I'm not, there's nothing in the system.
Oh, there is nothing in. Oh, so that's interesting. Okay. So all those in favor signify by saying aye, the old-fashioned way. Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, what's that? There is a nay vote? No? Okay, no, it passes unanimously, the old-fashioned way. Okay. Back to you, Councillor Bourgeois. I mean, I'm assuming no one else has any other motions at this time. Councillor Bourgeois, go ahead.
Again, my apologies for not being here, making them on the during the deliberation, but it wasn't my fault. My second motion, we had talked about it as well, putting an amount for potential activities to enhance democracy. I would love for the province to intervene and encourage people to run for council and encourage people to vote during the elections. We are at a dismal 33% voter turnout. I think we should try as much as we can to enhance democracy. Now, assuming that the province does intervene, that'd be great. I hope it's not just a superficial big ticket advertisement that, for instance, does not have local meetings where people can ask questions and somebody can answer them, what's involved. It's 25 hours a week. It pays $39,000 a year, whatever the questions would be. I think is important to encourage citizens to run and especially citizens to vote. In case the province doesn't fund something like this, I would move that we put $25,000 in a contingency whenever we get around to the discussion on potential ward boundary changes, survey citizens to see why some voted and why some didn't, etc. So I moved 25,000 in a contingency for 2025. And probably at this time next year, we'll know what the province intends to do if it does do anything. So we might have another amount, maybe not. I hope not, but we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Butler. Councillor Leger, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with the principle of being more proactive in terms of trying to increase first of all, voter turnout, and also people to put their nominations in. I'm just wondering whether it needs to be identified as a contingency for that, or should it be, we have a contingency moving in 2025. Should we take a look at perhaps putting a plan together and what that amount is? And then we could simply, if it is $20,000 is needed for a particular initiative that we discuss publicly, then we can move it forward. In other words, then we're not simply putting funds aside. So either way, I think it's important. And I believe that bringing it forward is really important in terms of having those initiatives. But I'm just sort of torn as to, we have the contingency for a purpose, and the purpose is for those items that perhaps we need extra monies for that are very solid initiative. So I would prefer to do it that way. It may actually be greater than $25,000. It may be a $50,000 initiative. And I think that that would be, you know, a way to approach it for 2025. And perhaps also it forces us to have a commitment to perhaps in the first quarter, come forward with a plan, come ask the Enhancing Democracy Committee, and maybe we all need to be part of it as council to say, what do we want the next election to look like? And really not just simply rely on a committee, but maybe needs to be a committee of all of council that really sits down and says, okay, this is what we want to do. So those are just my thoughts. I feel that it just, I don't know it's important, but I think we have other mechanisms related to the funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richard.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Ma question serait plutôt pas mal la même ligne que le conseiller Légère.
Along the same line as Councillor Leger, I know Councillor Bourgeois
Où est-ce que c'est que le 25 000 irait?
holds dear this motion, but I'm just wondering, this $25,000, where would it, how would it be spent, really? Councillor Bourgeois? Thank you for the question, Councillor Richard. First, to answer Councillor Leger, I believe there is a resolution from the council asking the Committee on Democracy to study ward boundaries, public surveys, and so on. So there is something on this. The council had asked the Committee on Democracy to react to the council's request, but the committee is really dissolved. It hasn't met since for long because didn't know how much money we would have. The survey would maybe cost 12,500. Statistical analysis to determine the boundaries for the 4 wards, maybe another $12,500. Together, $25,000. I don't know if other initiatives or activities, maybe set up a committee of former elected officials to meet and to work on those on these 2 items, maybe another $1,000 for a get together, little over 25,000. Well, without any further details, next year we have another contingency fund, and I'd like to know what the staff can help us with, what we can do from the contingency fund, but I'll be listening to see what comes up. I believe the other members of the council feel that we have to decide, but I think some of those decisions are not ours. We have to find out from the public why they're not voting. But, you know, it wouldn't look too good if, you know, we took the initiative to say it would look like we're trying to find ways to get reelected. So this is why it's a bit awkward for me to go into the details as to what this committee could do, but Councillor Richard again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Final word there.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. C'est pas parce que je ce que c'est
I'm not against what we're talking about here. It's important to involve everyone, but we have to do it right. That's all I meant.
Ben moi, ce que j'entends, c'est que le,
What I hear is the FMNB and the Municipalities Association are already talking about this. Apparently, they're interested in finding ways to improve voter turnout and so on.
anyone else? It's been moved and seconded. I'm hearing that this is something that could come out of contingency when we have future details and clarity around what the province is doing as well. So it sounds like there are other options. It's a very important discussion for all of us, but we can go to the vote right now. Oh, sorry, what's that?
You have a mover and seconder, it's up on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, right. We can't do it. Okay, sorry. See, I'm trained now. All right. So we're going to do this the old fashioned way. All those, sorry, that funding be placed in contingency. Oh, there's a zero missing. So I guess I need some clarity from the mover then that funding in the amount of $25,000 be placed in contingency. So you're asking for it to be separate from the $1 million that we already have in contingency?
I don't care where it comes from.
Okay, all right. But just for clarity on this motion, then
What's the best?
yeah, maybe Jacques, give us some, it sounds like we can just do this later on when we have more clarity, but.
So the way that it reads now of using council contingency and putting into contingency for us, the way it reads now is we would take 25,000 out of the council contingency. We would bring that 25,000 into other admin where it would stand as a budget line item for 25,000 for the year. If we were to do that is the way that we would perceive it now. If we were to move that 25,000 from the council contingency, which is a reserve account, to bringing into another reserve account, then it would not necessarily make too much sense, because in the end, council controls the entire 1 million council contingency. So there, I mean, it would end up with the same impact.
I'm not sure that clarifies
Okay,
for me.
so basically the way it works, the way it reads now, we would take 25,000 out of the contingency.
So the $1 million would become 900 and.
Well, I think we still have room to use the 2024.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
We would use that amount, we would bring it into our budget as an expense, as a level 3 of 25,000 that would stay there. At the end of the year, whether or not it is used or not, that amount would go away because it would be a one-time. If it stays into the council contingency reserve, then that's a balance sheet account that remains there until council decides to spend it.
Okay. But what I'm also hearing is we have $1 million contingency. We could take that out of it when we have more clarity
Yes,
around what
absolutely.
this actually means. So on the motion right now, that would be to dedicate it to right now and take it out of this year's contingency. We can vote on that the old-fashioned way. Pardon me?
Is the motion that's up there correct, Jacques?
It is in
Yes.
his mind.
Yes.
I'm not
Is
sure
it in
that's
Councillor
clear enough.
Bourgeois and Councillor Butler? Is that okay with you?
That it would
No, to be paid out of, not placed.
Okay,
be paid out of the 20. Yes, thank you. That does provide.
thank you.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Richard, you have a final word on this.
Sorry.
It's all right.
So if this doesn't go through today and we want to bring it up again in 25, does this become a notice of motion in the whole process, or?
So council has the full control of the council contingency reserve of $1 million. So that notice of motion can be made at the time, or it will either be brought in by an administrative report with a recommendation to fund it from there. So both ways, there's no limitations on council being able to access those funds.
I guess I'm just asking, at any public council meeting, we'd be able to make a motion.
Absolutely.
Make the motion, not prepare a notice of motion, present it, go through that
No, as per the procedural bylaw, though, any notice of motion, basically, the notice of motion is made, we bring it back the next following public meeting where council would vote on it. But I mean, for something as simple as this, administration could also prepare the report, because I believe we know what the will of council is, that there is support for this. We could bring it forward, with the details of how it would be spent, and it could be voted on that meeting.
So basically not the same process.
But this is also coming to council in December. We can continue the conversation then, might get more clarity around where we're going to do this properly at that time.
And the reason I'm asking the question is I don't want to hold things up, but if we can get more information and if it's not a huge task to bring the motion forward in 2025.
Yeah.
Right? That's all I'm asking about, right?
And just a clarity on that as well, Councillor Richard, is that a notice of motion, normally the normal process is we bring it back to the next public meeting. Now, if council unanimously supports it, though, it can get voted on there.
Right there. Okay, merci beaucoup. Sorry.
All right. Oh, Councillor Bourgeois. Oh, just one sec.
Merci, Madame la Maire. As the mover, I think I have the right to the last word. To me, it's practical. We have to invest in democracy. We have to nurture it because it's weak. If we had 80% voter turnout, be a different story. 33 sucks. Budget reflects our intentions, our commitments, the priorities. I would urge council to make, even if it's only 25,000, at least we are committed to spending money during the year to enhance democracy. Saying, no, let's not do it in the budget and wait for a specific motion, I could not agree to that. And I think we need to show our citizens that we actually believe in this and that just like social inclusion, we are ready to put our money where our mouth is. Merci.
All right. On the vote, the old-fashioned way, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? 3 nay votes, motion passes. And I believe you have one more. You will need to turn on your microphone. There you go.
Yeah, merci. It's also an item that I raised when the budget was presented initially, and I didn't see anything in the CRPA budget, but I didn't expect it from the CRPA budget because they are policing. Our public safety is more than police. So what else is involved? It depends on the model, but I can't rely on the CRPA and the RCMP to widen their, d'ouvrir leurs ailleurs, comme on dit. But I looked at Grand Prairie. I had asked staff to do a quick and dirty on Grand Prairie. I didn't see anything and I couldn't hear the presentations virtually, so I don't know if it was included in the discussions on the CRPA budget. But I did a quick math, and those additional RCMP members, 17 I think it was, our ratio is 70% of that, so that would be 12 on an average of $176,750 per member, comes out to $2.1 million. That's eliminating the equipment and the training and everything else, all things being equal, because the equipment, the cars, the radios, we'd have to do it for some others. So here's the alternative. For the same amount of money, $2.1 million, instead of 17 officers, we could have 27 employees, 10 peace officers at $80,000, 10 social workers at $75,000, hopefully paid for by the province, worst case scenario paid by us. So if the province paid for part of these social workers, our cost would be even lower than the 17 RCMP officers. 2 psychologists, 5 more bylaw officers, so 10 peace officers, 10 social workers, 5 bylaw officers, and 2 psychologists. And based on the Grand Prairie model, that's what they have. They tackle the social issues that represent close to 40% of our crime activities, criminal incidents that are reported, if you consult the Perryvale and Taylor report. We were, Councillor Leger and Councillor Butler, we was this close to getting more details on the Grand Prairie model until we were shut down earlier this year. That's fine. We chose the RCMP, turned the page, we have the RCMP. But in Grand Prairie, they have the RCMP. They're about to boot them out, but they have the RCMP and they also have a mobile unit. They also have social workers. They also have bylaw officers, peace officers. They have the assistance of psychologists. So I'm going to make a motion based on my calculations. We need to get more details, but just a summary calculations for the same amount of money as hiring 17 police officers who we know will not make that much of a difference in the criminal activity that is related to the social issues. Not going to make that much of a difference because they did not in the past. We gave them 5 more officers a couple of years ago to patrol the downtown, and they took that money and they spread it around the organization. We don't know exactly what they did with it, so we give them 17 officers, even if we ask them, the prorated 12 RCMP members, to do more social inclusion kind of stuff. They would not manage as well as models that do succeed, like the one in Grand Prairie. So I'm going to motion that we do not grant the RCMP the money for the 17 additional members, and instead hire the people based on the Grand Prairie model for the same amount of money.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Seconded by Councillor Butler. Go ahead.
So I agree that moving forward in this city, these tri-communities, but I'll only speak for our city, is that something has to change. I probably won't be supporting Councillor Bourgeois' motion unless somebody, I'll second it for discussion, but my biggest thing is that you're right. Back a while ago, yourself, Councillor Gier and myself were on the HADOC committee, and we wanted to move forward with more information from Grand Prairie and a couple other places. Surrey, they're going ahead too. Just to, I think sometimes the only way we can negotiate with the RCMP is regards to it's a terrible way, but is if we want to move away from them, that's the only way we can really negotiate. Any other thing is shut down. Regards to the members being hired for downtown, I remember the question being asked and the superintendent saying that when we give them members, they put them where they want, not where we want because it's operational. I also believe in democracy very strongly, and when we brought our motion forward for us to move forward with to attain more information, I think we wanted to go till the end of June, and if I'm correct, I think it was Councillor Edgett that brought a motion forward that we accept the Perryvale and Taylor report the way it is, that we get the CRPA to bring a workload analysis to us, and that council had accepted the Perryvale and Taylor and wanted to move forward with the RCMP. I know from past experience working there, the RCMP look after policing. That's their gig. If there's something as far as getting peace officers here, that's a whole different situation. Getting people in as far as psychologists and social workers, I don't know if of an RCMP detachment that has them working within, maybe with throughout the province. They work for the province or work for the community, but within the police detachment, I don't know of any. So my concern with the motion is it makes a lot of sense. If we keep doing the same thing over and over again and we don't see any results. So my decision to support the 17 this year is to see where our crime rate is the following year. At the end of 2025, we will be going into a new council at that time. And a new council will have to make a decision what direction we're going. I think this council has been that I voted against, but the majority voted for. So I don't know where everybody else stands. I'm certainly willing to listen, and if there's enough support for Councillor Bourgeois, I'll certainly go ahead. But that's where I stand right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leger.
Yeah, thank you. Well, certainly, there were a lot of questions yesterday related to the 17 officers and the next 2-year proposal to increase that to 46. The reason I supported or would support the 17 officers is from what I've heard and what I've seen and have been told, even from a professor at the University of Moncton, that the solvability of crimes in our community is poor. And the RCMP even admitted that that's where the bulk of their resources are going to go into investigations and to complete and so give the opportunity to solve crimes. That being said, there is a real need for a real plan moving forward. And that's why I'm reluctantly saying that this year, the adding of 17 officers for the first time actually has been identified related to what I think will be a key performance indicator in terms of solving crimes. The idea and what they're doing in Grand Prairie is a very solid approach. And I think that, we have decided as a council and the 3 communities to support the RCMP, and I'm okay with that. I think that we have a strong presence of policing and that they're excellent at what they do. And the more key performance indicators that we put in there and the more information that we receive, then the more confidence everyone will have in the RCMP. That being said, what we're visually seeing on our streets, we talk about it all the time, are the consequences of homelessness, of drug addiction, social issues in general. And I think that as a municipality, we have already entered into that foray with our initiative with community officers, even our hiring of staff, which is, Vince Marola and social inclusion. So it's an interesting approach. I think, though, that, again, really needs to be looked at. What is the role of a municipality? And perhaps there is the role of a municipality to have the ability to do and deliver the services to our community that right now the RCMP are the only ones that are delivering. And so therefore, I believe that in terms of return on investment, hiring people who have social backgrounds, sociology backgrounds, psychologists, community officers, with a caveat, I think it's really important to have peace officers, would be extremely beneficial for our community. And I think that's the conversation we need to have in 2025 with the CRPA. The CRPA's mandate is policing. What we're experiencing is more than policing. And we always seem to put it in the same bucket. And that's why I think when Councillor Bourgeois and Councillor Butler and I, we looked at different models. I think there's still a hybrid that can happen here, and I think we need to have those conversations. I thank, Councillor Bourgeois for bringing it forward and saying, you know what, we need to look at this differently. And, we had the same discussion when we wanted to add community officers. People were not comfortable at this table saying, well, how far do we go? Well, you know what? I think we have a different provincial government now. We have the ability to say, look, you know what? We want to tackle this because we have to. We have to be a partner. We have to be involved. We're more nimble. We keep saying that. We've proven that our staff are excellent at being able to maneuver and deliver the services needed. So that's a conversation for 2025 that we need to have, far greater than a conversation on policing. So the 17 officers and what it can do for solving crime, I think we need to move forward. I'm comfortable with that. The details will come with respect to how that's measured and what we see at the end of 2025. But we really do need to think about where we're going to put our money next year. And I agree that, that would be a great way to spend $2.1 million and provide us with the necessary services that would be measurable to make a real impact in our community, take some pressure off the RCMP, and I think collectively we could do that better. So I would say that this is a conversation for 2025, that we start immediately in January, and that we really are serious about it. And we engage the province to say, look, if it's going to be, maybe it'll be 50-50. Maybe that's all we can get in terms of, paying for the 10, social workers that we need, and increasing the victim services unit, and so on. But I think we need to have that framework, and looking at a very comparable city like Grand Prairie they have very, very similar. They're similar in size, similar in terms of issues. I think they are something that we can glean from, and that we can in 2025 really seriously put our foot forward in terms of being part of that solution even greater than we currently are. So I think really, it is valid to think about this, and I believe that we need to do that in 2025. Just simply doing it off the cuff today, I think is something that I can't support, but I can support the idea, because I truly believe that this can be an addition to what we're seeing in terms of the delivery of services in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc.
Oui, je suis d'accord avec mes deux collègues, Monsieur.
Yes, I agree with both of my colleagues, Councillor Butler and Councillor Légère.
Yeah, and I think we have to move up. Montreal, there's Grand Prairie, but I think that Moncton is the New Brunswick, Montreal. So yeah, they have police. They're the city police, but they don't have their outfit. It's not the proper word, but yes. So they're on the street and with the sans-abri. So this is something I would really like to see in the city of Moncton. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Terrio.
Merci, Madame la Maire. I totally agree with, I'm glad that Conseil Bourgeois brought this forward, and I agree with Conseil Légère and Conseil Leblanc, Conseil Butler as well. The public safety issue and the social issues that we have, we're going to have to deal with this. It affects our public safety, it affects our quality of life, it affects everything. So we need to have maybe a discussion that really focuses on this, and how do we work with public safety, and How do we work with the province? How do we work with the federal government who's responsible for the RCMP? Are they going to continue having a police force that does nothing but what they are presently doing? Or will they become a hybrid police force in the future? I think the dialogue needs to be a very high-profile dialogue, not just us here at the City of Moncton, but the discussion with the province, and I think it's Conseil Léger who mentioned that I think that the provincial government at the present is really open to new ideas, new ways of doing things. So this is all good. And at the federal level, things will have to change as well. So I'm confident that we will find solutions. I'm not sure what they are at the present, but I do like the idea of this dialogue in 2025. So, merci.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any last comments? Go ahead, Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Madam Mattis, and thank you everyone for the discussion. I guess as your not so new anymore CRPA council representative, and I thank you, Councillor Leger, for separating church and state. CRPA mandate is policing, and it's again a discussion for 2025. And if it's working in Grand Prairie along those lines, if you're considering the RCMP hiring an entire separate detachment of social workers and mental health and addiction workers, that's a whole other discussion that involves the province and the Police Act and everything else. So it's a great discussion to have moving forward. As our city, the crime solvability, crime ratio, that leads to the crime numbers that we see, and the KPIs are ongoing from PricewaterhouseCoopers regarding the crime severity index, and there's more information coming early in the new year on that. More refined, I think, information on the KPI side. So great discussion to have on the policing side. And we continue to have our challenges here in the great city of Moncton regarding the crime and the solvability crime, and as we heard in their presentations, the 17 new officers and the municipal 5 coming in are going to hopefully have time to work on those files on the crime solvability issues in 2025 and beyond. So great discussion to have, and thank you for that. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Madame Mattis.
Thank you. Is there anyone who has not spoken on this item who wishes to speak? I will go back to you, Councillor Leger.
Well, thank you. Just in closing, I think it would be great if we could, in early 2025, have a committee of the whole, and that is the only topic, and we really discuss what is our role, what is the city's role in doing this. And Councillor Kingston, you mentioned hiring and partnering with. We should have a conversation on the partnership with the RCMP. The RCMP are not going to and should not be involved with social workers and so on to the extent that what we need on our streets. It's collaboration, it's partnership, and that's what other municipalities are seeing. And the thing is, then it's that frank discussion and financial discussion in and around what the future holds and what we are going to do in terms of really beginning to address this, put together a plan, and really have a discussion of council because we hear it from residents all the time. So I would just like to at least plant the seed that, we have a committee of the whole just on that one topic in January sometime, and we begin the conversation. And then from there, we sketch out a plan and what the next steps are leading to the end of 2025 so that we find ourselves in a situation where we are able to manage what's required in policing, but we're also able to begin that transition that we need as a city to deal with issues in collaboration, mental health issues, addiction issues in collaboration with the province. And I think if we can achieve that, and we have we have a fine time frame now of a new government that's really engaged, possibly could be really successful, even though the other municipality associations are dealing and it's on their mind. We are really experiencing it on the ground, and it's us as a community that really needs to sit and say, okay, can we set Can we set the way and show, and we've seen it with our community officers, other municipalities are stepping up saying, you know what, we didn't recognize that those things were coming. And so I think we have a really good ability to do that. And I welcome that in January 2025 Committee of the Whole. So thank you.
Terrific. Any last comments? Go ahead, Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. While I appreciate the discussion, we were here last March. We were at this point last March. So this same council who said, we know enough, we can make a decision, stop your work, committee. We are going with the RCMP and we're going with the status quo. We're going to ask that same council in the new year, if I understand the suggestion properly, that same council is now going to say, oh, yeah, we need more information. It's a bit confusing for me. So if you could explain to me what would be different between last March and today or January, whenever it is we have a committee of the whole focus on that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Are you addressing that question to anyone specifically?
Argued in favor of a discussion in 2025. The majority of council blocked the discussion in March of 24. What makes me think, if I'm going to withdraw the motion or vote against the motion, that this will happen and that something will be produced that was blocked last March?
Councillor Leger, you wish to take this on?
Well, I guess what I would say is I would hope that all council members, from what I believe when the decision was made to move with the RCMP, that certainly isn't anything against addressing the needs in our community. I would hope that we can have a conversation. I don't hear other councillors indicating that they don't see those social issues and that they are perplexed at how we're going to address them. I think this is an opportunity to open up that discussion and to really have a plan. And if after our meeting in January, if it's clear that policing is the only direction that this council wants to take and feels that that's the answer, then that's democracy. But I believe from what we're hearing that there are openings with respect to changing the way that we approach it. So I have faith in members of council we should have a frank discussion. We had differing viewpoints. Even my viewpoint, I've at one point in time, we need to differentiate between crime and between social issues. And so, without a plan, without really having a true understanding of where we're going with this, I can't support it, but I can support the having that discussion and the commitment to having the discussion and the commitment to wanting to see a difference. I want to see a difference in our community. I want things to be different. And if that doesn't fly with council, well, then that is democracy. But I think council is open to it, and that is the reason that I think we're serious by saying we're going to set that meeting in January and we're going to talk about it and we're going to plan for 2026 moving forward.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Terrio.
Merci, Madame la Maire. I also agree with Conseiller Léger on this. I think that we need to keep an open mind. The fact that I voted the way I did for the issue of public safety does not mean that I'm not open now to discussing the future of policing. So I think that we need to keep this subject open, and we need to je sais pas trop comment le dire, mais c'est une façon de
I'm not quite sure how to say this, but it's a way of just keeping your mind open to try and come up with solutions.
I really believe that public safety needs to be looked at in a different lens. Now, I don't like to put a label on this and the RCMP and then another police force. I just want to look, I hope that we can do that, look at a broader picture of this and try to work, and I mentioned this earlier, this is a high profile issue. It's not just about Grand Prairie and about the city of Moncton. My phone is ringing in my head right now. Sorry, I apologize. So, sorry. Sorry. So I really, I think that we can continue the dialogue and hopefully find some new ways of doing things. And we don't have to copy Grand Prairie. Maybe that's a good model, but maybe we can have our own model, which will be quite different. So, c'est tout. Merci.
Thank you. Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Worship. I'm looking for some sort of clarity on, there's a lot of discussion for January 2025. Sorry, I've got a call with a kidney specialist that I have to take, so I'll reserve my,
Okay.
I'll park my question. for
Okay,
later.
sure.
Thank
Go ahead. Councillor Richard.
Merci, Mme Arnaud. Pas sûr si je suis à mon aise de
I'm not sure if I'm very comfortable taking on these social workers at the city just now. I'd like to have the discussion with the new government to see where they see themselves. Do they see themselves helping us or not? I'm not very comfortable on the, stating my position on this, but it is a discussion that we need to have.
Final opportunity. Well, in my opinion, this is a year of stabilization with our RCMP. I think the COP to POP ratio has proven that we are in need of some new members. I think that the RCMP and the CRP are taking this very seriously. I encourage all of council to look at those KPIs when they come in. We need to dig in deeply. Are they really the right ones for our community? And spend some real time talking about those. I also agree that, you know, doing the same thing over and over is not the answer. I am very encouraged by my meetings with the province on their commitment to looking at things differently. The mental health court is a really big one. We don't have legislation in the Police Act right now to give some of our bylaw officers more powers. Hopeful that we can have those interesting discussions with the minister. And I agree. This is a conversation, but it's a very important conversation that we need to have in January. So again, we're going to do this the old-fashioned way.
Madam Mayor, I think I need to make a comment too.
Certainly. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So as the motion stands right now, we would need to add another thing just in it. We would need to add something to it to make it technically legal, because right now the way it works, the city of Moncton would not have a choice to take a portion of a CRPA budget and have influence, because that budget is prepared by the CRPA board, presented to the three communities or so on. So the motion, and it could still come to the same outcome, is that the city of Moncton not approve the CRPA budget, has to put that money aside in a reserve, because in the end, it's the public safety minister of the province that would determine if one council votes against the CRPA budget. So we would need to not approve this, council would need not approve the CRPA budget, put that funding aside into a reserve until that decision is made, with the intention of having discussions with the CRPA to reduce to 17 officers and to be able to fund those positions. So that's kind of what we would need to do. Council needs to either vote for the CRPA budget or not. It can't be we cannot necessarily carve it out, but we can still vote against it, put the money aside in the event that the public safety minister would not go with council, and then after that, have those conversations with the CRPA.
So can we just go ahead with this motion right now with the understanding? Or
Yeah.
should we change the motion?
Well, I think based on the comments I'm hearing from council, we are going to be okay, but if ever it goes the other way, we're going to have,
Okay,
we'll have to
understood.
adjust the motion.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? Nay.
So the yays are just, yeah, Councillor Bourgeois and Councillor Butler.
So the motion fails. I believe that concludes our budget deliberations. We probably have some motions that we do have to make though on them. Is
That's
that
right.
true?
So we can recess and then
Okay.
it won't take us long because based on what we have, everything's funded through the council contingency. So we're just going to go upstairs, prepare the operating, utility and capital resolutions, and we'll come back to council. But I believe,
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci. It's not a motion. It's just two suggestions in relation to our ongoing discussions with the province. All three leaders came before us at the Saint Avenir during a public meeting, and they committed to a lot of things, including a new financial system that was sort of delayed by the previous government. Two suggestions. One is in our calculations, a question I had asked but wasn't probably clear enough, but the government of New Brunswick invests about $33.6 million a year in infrastructure in Moncton. But I think the government of New Brunswick collects more than that amount in non-commercial, non-residential, commercial property taxes. So the province is making money from our businesses, mostly commercial and non-residential property taxes. They take it to Fredericton and then they give us part of it back. So they tax without providing services for some of that. I'm not sure if it's most of that. It would be nice to do the calculation and have that as a trump card in our back pocket when we do discuss the fiscal changes about to happen in the province and say, by the way, province, you're making a lot of money from our businesses and you're not providing as much money for the services. It's one thing. The other one that I found interesting in our budget, the other suggestion is that the city inspects provincial buildings, hospitals, schools, etc. They're a multi-billion-dollar organization and they don't inspect their own buildings. We do it. Do we charge them a fee to do the inspection?
thank your worship, not that I'm aware of.
Me neither. So I don't know. That's probably the equivalent of one employee that could handle all of these provincial buildings within the city. Il semble que ça serait une des choses qu'on pourrait dire à la province.
It seems to me we could tell the province, well, it's do your own job. They're your properties. You do the inspection. Make sure that they're functional. We shouldn't be doing this freely for the province. That would be another trump card when we have to negotiate with the province.
And it's a $200 million that the province, actually that's the delta on what they're not reinvesting back in. And Premier Holt has publicly committed to, no, province has publicly committed to reinvesting that back into municipalities. So we will take a little recess right now for our dynamic finance team to get those details for us. Jacques, can you just give us sort of a idea how long this is going to take?
We're going to go with 15 minutes.
15 minutes. See you back in 15 minutes. Council, I'd like to call your attention to an email you've received on the motions and the budget, sorry. And I'm assuming it's just the first attachment that we're voting on, or both of them? Okay. Oh, okay, so the first one is the Word file. It's a resolution of council for the capital works budget. Oh, sorry, leadership has this as well. On the capital works budget, are these up?
No.
Okay. Is there someone who wishes to move the capital works budget? Councillor Butler, is there a seconder for the capital works? Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc. I believe we're doing this the old fashioned way again. Where is everybody? I mean, we have enough, but I think they've been here for 3 days. They might want to be part of this. Be kind of anticlimactic. So at this time, Council, we have a mover and a seconder for the capital budget. You've all received an email outlining how that breaks down. Are we ready to go to the question? On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up on the Excel spreadsheet, this is the general operating fund budget. Correct? Jacques? Yep. Which is the total operating. Well, yeah, perhaps. Yeah, let's just do that. We've worked hard enough to take the time now. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
I agree, Your Worship. So the first one that we'll go through is the general operating fund budget. The total budget is now set at 227,854,225. Less non-tax revenue of 31,142,791 for a net budget of 196,711,434, minus the community funding and equalization grant of 1,293,227, which is a warrant to be raised by a local rate of 195,418,207. This is to certify that on the 28th day of November 2024, the Council of the Local Government of the City of Moncton resolved that the sum of $227,854,225 be the total operating budget of the local government, that the sum of $195,418,207 be the warrant of the local government for the ensuing year, and that the tax rate for the local government be listed as above. The council orders and directs the levying by the Minister of the Local Government of said amount of real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the local government of the City of Moncton, adopted this 28th day of November 2024 by the Council of the Local Government of the City of Moncton.
Thank you very much. Councillor Leger, I have you up first. Do you wish to move this?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bourgeois, I have you next. Did you wish to second? No. Is there someone who wishes to second? Thank you, Councillor Kingston. Over to you, Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci. Merci, Madame la Maire. Merci, Jacques. Merci pour les collègues pour avoir travaillé.
Thank you to the colleagues for working so hard on the budget. I will vote against the budget because I find we're wasting money in investing in the RCMP rather than into professionals that could help solve the problem. The problems are social, mostly rather social than criminal.
Signify by saying aye. Opposed? One nay vote, Councillor Bourgeois, so the motion passes. I would now draw your attention to the second tab in the Excel document, which is, I don't see it. It's a utility budget. Okay. Jacques. could
Thank you,
do
Your
us the
Worship.
honors?
So this motion relates to the 2025 water and wastewater operating fund budget with a total budget of 47,103,537, less revenues from own and other sources of 8,972,927, less revenues of 1.4, 4.5, and so on of 271,620. The net budget to be raised from user charges is 37,858,990. And I will now read. So this is to certify that on the 28th day of November 2024, the Council of the Local Government of City of Moncton resolved that pursuant to subsection 117-4 of the Local Governance Act, the total budget for the water and wastewater utility for the ensuing year would consist of total revenues of 47,103,537 and the total expenditures of 47,103,537, adopted this 28th day of November 2024 by the Council of the Local Government of the City of Moncton.
Terrific. Thank you, Jacques. Is there someone who wishes to move this? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Legier, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And I do believe that concludes our budget deliberations for 2024. Thank you very much. Thank you to the team and to everyone who has tuned in. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.